Second question. It concerns me greatly that after the Mayor's unsuccessful attempt to become state parliamentarian, at his first meeting back on the live stream, he evicted Deputy Mayor Rowan Vogt from his seat in the middle of the live motion, and his manner appeared angry and aggressive. Those watching online witnessed the Mayor be extremely short and rude to both Councillor Fordham and Councillor Kelly. My question is, considering the Mayor has received no retraining or punishment for the 2 breaches he was found guilty of, what assurances do Mount Barker residents have that the Mayor's behaviour has changed?
I determine that that question is inappropriate and it will not be answered.
My final question is, can the 5 elected members explain to the people of Mount Barker why they chose to exonerate the Mayor from his punishment? Do they find this behaviour acceptable?
I find that question inappropriate and will not be answered.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that wishes to ask a question? Please come forward. Before you start, you've read the guidance for people asking questions, the little pamphlet?
Yes.
And can you state your name and your town, please?
Edna A. From Birdwood. My question is, what measures are currently in place to ensure that complaint processes between elected members are being used appropriately and constructively rather than contributing to further dysfunction or division within the elected body?
The answer to your question is that all complaints are subject to the Council's behavioural management policy, and as far as I'm aware, every single complaint that has crossed my desk or that I've been involved in has been handled appropriately within the Council's behavioural management policy.
Do you believe that the behaviour of the Mayor you did against the Honourable Rebecca Hewitt has been dealt with appropriately and properly to Rebecca's satisfaction and the satisfaction of the council members and the public in Mount Barker?
Seeing as we now have the recording in progress, and out of respect for the question that you've asked, I'll reiterate my apology. In settlement of a council resolution of 4th of May regarding 2 behavioural standard complaints, I unreservedly and sincerely apologise to Rebecca Hewitt.
Sincerely?
I can say it the 3rd time if you like, Mrs. Tate.
Yes, sincerely, that you mean it from your heart, that you are genuinely sorry that the way you treated Rebecca was inappropriate.
I have said it 3 times, Mrs. Tate. I'm not going to do it a 4th time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the gallery that would like to ask a question? Then I'll proceed to item 3, confirmation of the minutes. Do I have somebody move that the minutes on the 4th of May be accepted as a true and accurate record? Councillor Seeger? Councillor Selassie? All those in favour? All those against? Motion is carried. Conflict of interest declaration, number 4. Councillor Seeger.
Thank you. I'd like to declare a general conflict in relation to item 8.5. Based on the perception that as I'm a member of the K4C, I may have a conflict. I've been on that committee for over 20 years. I receive no benefit or disbenefit from being on a committee, and I intend to stay, debate and vote on that, which is my motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Seeger. Do any other members? Councillor Fordham.
Thank you, Matt. I'd like to declare a conflict of interest for item 8.1 due to me owning a property within the vicinity of future potential ring routes. I believe an impartial, fair-minded person would not think that my private interests, direct or indirect, have motivated me to act in a manner that is contrary to my public duty. Therefore, I cannot believe moving my motion, remaining in the room, participating in the debate and voting on the motion to be contrary to my public duty. I will remain in the chamber, participate in the debate and vote on it.
Before you take a seat, you didn't indicate to me, from my hearing, whether you indicated it was a general or a material.
Sorry, general conflict of interest.
Thank you. Is there any other member that has conflict of interest? Go to item 5, deputations. There are no deputations. Question 6, questions with notice. Question 6.1, question asked by Councillor Selassie. The response was given to Councillor Selassie. What I can say is that as of today, there was a letter that I received from the Minister for Education, Honourable Lucy Hood, and that letter was also sent to all of you councillors to ensure that you're adequately informed in addition to the question that was asked and answered. 6.2, titled Resourcing the Child and Youth Action Plan, asked by Councillor Fordham. A response has been given to Councillor Fordham. 6.3, digital connectivity prioritisation for Northwood townships. Question was asked and answered by Councillor Selassie and answered by the General Matter Strategy. 6.4, consultation on fireworks across the district. A background in question provided by Councillor Size. The response was provided by the General Manager Strategy. 6.5, works to offset vegetation removal. Question asked by Councillor Size and the response provided by the General Manager Infrastructure and Environment. Item 7, questions without notice. Are there any questions without notice? Motions on notice. Item 8.1, Ring Road. Councillor Fordham, would you like to remove this en bloc, or would you like to make any other changes to your motion now?
Would you ever like to amend the motion
Thank you.
based on the changed text as shown on the screen?
Give a chance for people to be able to read that on the screen. It's better. Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Grosser. Councillor Fordham, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor and members. Currently, Mount Barker relies heavily on Flaxley, Wellington and Adelaide roads to enable traffic to flow through from the freeway and to Totnes. Traffic modelling has recently tested options to reduce congestion and improve flows, including the use of a ring road. The modelling is currently at stage 2, with another potential stage involving dips. My understanding is from speaking to staff that the modelling has already proven useful and helping to navigate the complexity of the traffic flows. The results are not yet public. From my perspective, the findings warrant the council taking some action. The need or otherwise for a ring road has also been in the public discourse, including Matt Schultz, MP, numerous Facebook posts, and the idea of a ring road is not new. The 2008 District Council Master Plan identified a ring route, namely Hyson Boulevard, but in practice the design has been rather a collector road rather than one that can distribute traffic. My intent of the motion is captured from a quote from the Master Plan. Cooperation with council, state and federal government is essential to assure appropriate network outcomes are reached. I emphasise the intent is to facilitate cooperation, not the council working alone, and bring further light to the problem, its consequences and solutions. The concept of a ring road has proven somewhat controversial and challenging, yet people are negatively impacted, including those in Mount Barker and in other parts of the district, suffering from a lack of connectivity and also the overuse of rat runs. In my mind, a ring route needs to have some clear management rules to enable efficient fast access and act as a distributor road that will provide benefits such as reduced reliance on Adelaide Road, possibly encourage public transport linked to a park and ride, enable easier access to and from suburbs, provide a route for police, ambulance and emergency services, and including escape in the case of a fire. It could also be built on intelligent design, signage to enable drivers to understand trip times and best routes. From my perspective, I think it is a council responsibility to raise and canvass these actions. If in the future there is a bushfire and residents do not have sufficient access to road infrastructure to safely get around or out of town, I would feel responsible. I think we need to take a view of a civic responsibility. Having discussed the issue since the deferment with councillors, community groups and locals, I'm understanding that the motion of a external ring road to the development boundary has some issues due to the potential impact on land biodiversity, and that it could also facilitate a further growth burst of development. I see this as an opportunity to look at all options and to look at solutions that integrate with the development footprint and or complement required land use needs in the future, such as industrial need, which is why I'm asking for a report out of this motion. I'm also thinking too about how we do apply the ring road concept to the current road network, and the possibility of looking at, as well as this concept of the outer road, which might take a long time, but whether we could do an inner ring road, a distributor which enables traffic to avoid bottlenecking on Adelaide Road. On the west, that would be connection between Flaxley Road to Hawthorn Road, and on the east, a connection between Welliting Road and Bald Hills Road. The problem with that connection is that it requires that section of Hyson Boulevard, which requires a 60-metre high bridge and would be quite expensive. Interestingly, the west section, we do have Hyson Boulevard being built, but in my view, the current design, I went and had a look on the weekend, it has the median strip in the middle and hard gutters, and I think it would be difficult for tow trucks or breakdowns to be dealt with. So just summing up, this motion asks for council to do three things, and I foreshadow that I would like those to be voted on separately. The first one is to engage with state federal representation to review the results of the traffic modelling, future implications and ways forward. The second one is council to receive a report on early investigations, building on the modelling and in collaboration with DIT and the state. And that report would fully articulate roles and responsibilities. And then the third motion is about acknowledging in the transport plan that we are looking at investigating options for Ring Road and enhancing connectivity, building on that 2008 District Master Plan. And I guess I just wanted to finish off by saying that people have sent me chat GPT models of ring roads, which look pretty impressive, except the names are wrong. I've had local traffic engineers give me ideas. We've got wannabe traffic designers on Facebook, and I think the council can play an important role in engaging with DIT on solutions, but also looking at local impact. Is that finished?
It's finished.
Thank you.
Within your debate then, you raised a matter about having them voted on three separate events. Because the matter's been moved and seconded, I cannot allow that.
Okay.
I apologise.
That's all right.
Seconder, Councillor, who was it? Councillor Grosser, you are the seconder, please, if you wish to speak.
I think this is well worth considering, this motion. Arguably, it's a responsibility, but clearly one of the tasks of local government councils is to advocate to both other levels of government, state and federal, for community needs, and traffic circulation is certainly community need, and traffic circulation is under immense pressure in Mount Barker, so and the community expect us to advocate and make improvements to satisfy their needs. So got to be proactive, especially while land is available, before land is built out, building in a ring routes. We need to secure land before it becomes impossible. Once it's built on you, you can compulsory purchase, but it's too expensive and publicly unpalatable to go knocking houses down people's homes. Arguably too, we're stretching ourselves trying to advocate for a ring road, and we haven't yet got the Hyson Boulevard completed, and that's been 15 years, 16 years since this decision made to build it. But there's also, I believe too that there are questions over how High Boulevard is going to cope because it's designed for not much more than half the density of development that we now have. Allotments are a lot smaller, there's a lot more roads, cars on the roads per hectare of development than was envisaged when the High Boulevard was designed. So I think it's certainly worth consideration, and I'm looking forward to hearing what others have got to say. Thank you, Mayor.
Any other member? Councillor Solasi.
Thank you, Mayor. With regards to the first part of this motion, we're already engaging with these representatives on critical infrastructure needs in our district. Council regularly engages with our state and federal members, and transport issues are already part of those discussions. In tonight's agenda alone, we're advised of engagement with the member for Carville regarding advocacy priorities. We know meetings already occur with these elected representatives, and the transport and growth issues are already part of those discussions. I note on the agenda that staff also meet monthly with DIT, Department for Infrastructure and Transport. I'm going to offer a different perspective. What concerns me is that we again have the ring road concept in front of us following its withdrawal from the main agenda. Looking at reserving land as suggested for a state government arterial road is not a council responsibility. And I genuinely believe that referencing a ring road gives our community false hope when we all know better. The suggestion of a ring road elevates a concept that, based upon the advice provided to council to date, remains a very long-term proposition. We're talking well over one generation away and close to the dawn of the next century in the information that I have seen. Further, and critically, council advocating for potential consideration of a ring road actually flags to the state government that if they were to consider an outer ring road, then council are comfortable with a further rezoning beyond the current growth boundary. We know this will be the message if we start advocating for a ring road. We've been expressly told this. No government is going to consider an outer ring road that doesn't have housing abutting it. So to push this hypothetical concept that is literally many decades away in the modelling we have seen is to essentially wave the red flag to the eye of Sauron, to cast itself upon our beautiful farmland again and look to push the growth boundary out further. I don't know why we do this. To be clear, I'm not opposing the concept of a ring road in the distant future because there will absolutely become a time when it's required. But since November, we have received high-level traffic modelling information. We've received briefings. We've received repeated advice from staff, and through all of that, the message has been incredibly consistent. A ring road is a concept only. It's a hypothetical. It is well over one generation away in modelling, literally at the dawn of a new century, and there are much higher priorities. So to me, with all this information available to us, the notion of a ring road raised in an election year seems to be more for attention than anything else. Because the priorities we should be focusing on, that we are advocating for, the priorities that we know are more than concepts or hypotheticals are wastewater infrastructure, meaningful improvements to High Boulevard and the broader road network, complete upgrades to Adelaide Road, Wellington Road and Flaxley Road, upgrades to Hahndorf Main Street, solutions for increasing pressure on the freeway, particularly with consideration to our growth and the potential growth in Murray's Ridge. We need to understand how major state-led projects, including the proposed and costed Greater Adelaide Freight Bypass, fits on all of this also. These are real priorities. These are projects our community needs. These are projects that could actually make a difference within our lifetimes, tangible priorities with direct community benefit. By comparison, a ring road remains an aspirational concept. I recall an expert mentioning that it was, quote, a pie-in-the-sky hypothetical, end quote. So I remain unsure as to why we would distract from critical infrastructure priorities that require advocacy, funding, design and delivery now to push a hypothetical concept. Because nothing has changed, modelling hasn't changed, the advice hasn't changed, and our priorities certainly have not changed. Angling for consideration of a hypothetical ring road many decades before traffic modelling shows it's even plausible, to me gives our community false hope for a solution that isn't forecast until nearly the end of the century. It's grossly premature, and it prematurely flags council's support for a hypothetical ring road that also invites the state to consider further rezoning for housing beyond our existing growth boundary, which should give anyone significant pause. We're already struggling under the weight of the 2010 rezoning. To my understanding, we're around 35% of the way only through development of that land. We haven't even finished dealing with the consequences of the last major rezoning exercise, and yet we're here talking about infrastructure concepts beyond that growth boundary, and I'm not sure why. Why would we invite those conversations when we're still trying to secure infrastructure for the growth already approved? To me, it's not practical. Thank you.
Any other member? Councillor Bartley.
Yeah, thank you. I won't speak for too long. I think a lot of good things have already said. I've got a lot of sympathy for where this motion comes from. The idea that council is a forward-looking planning institution is a very popular one. That is who we want to be. But I can certainly see the pragmatics of everything that Councillor Selassie has said. And I tend to find myself erring on that side. It does make me think of a sort of philosophical story that I came upon once about a Greek astronomer who spent all his time looking up at the stars and didn't see the hole that was in front of him. So I feel like that's a simple way of expressing my feelings on this. I think the idea is good, the vision is good, but I think if we draw too much attention to that now, we may miss seriously good opportunities in the foreground that we're going to need to be responsive to, and I would probably rather we prioritise them.
Any other member? Thank you, Councillor Kelly.
Chair, I support the intent of this motion. However, unfortunately, I can't support it in its current form. I think we need to be honest and realistic with the community about roles and responsibilities. Infrastructure of this scale, arterial road planning, corridor preservation, land acquisition and delivery sits with the Department of Infrastructure and Transport and the state government. This is not council's statutory role, nor do we possess the powers or funding mechanisms required to deliver transport infrastructure of this scale. But acknowledging that reality doesn't mean council has no role. Council absolutely has a role in advocacy. Council has a role in advocating with MPs, state government and DIP and pressing that planning occur. Council has a role in ensuring that Barker is not overlooked as transport priorities are considered. Council has a role in identifying local impacts, protecting future options where possible, and ensuring our planning documents and advocacy settings reflect the realities of a fast-growing district. Again, I support the intent of the motion, and should this motion not be carried, I'm not to say that there would not be a future motion on this topic, but yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Any other member? Councillor Seah.
On the having put forward by Councillor Selassie, quite convincing, and while I appreciate the discussion of a ring road is in the public domain, I think realistically, as others have stated clearly, it is not council's role. The issue of advocacy for transport infrastructure is something that this council has undertaken for at least the 12 years that I've been on council, and they continue to do so. The advocacy for Hyson Boulevard commenced, my first knowledge of it was when I came on the council. It's nearly 12 years ago now, and to very limited effect. I think we should be concentrating, as Councillor Bode has said, on things closer, more immediate, than things that are very much many decades away. I understand the concern, but I think we need to focus on things closer, so I cannot support this motion.
Thank you. Normally, the Mayor does not debate too much on matters that come to this chamber. However, it's important that I make a couple of points that are not of a contentious nature to the chamber. 3 ministers of infrastructure and transport ago, Tom Critzentonis assured me some 8 years ago that a ring road will be constructed around Mount Barker at some stage. That was 8 years ago. Second thing is that I do meet regularly with both the local, federal and state MP and with ministers. We have a 6-weekly meeting just on traffic issues with and other issues with the around infrastructure provision with the Minister for Planning. So those meetings happen regularly anyway, and the other meetings with Rebecca Sharkey and and that should also happen regularly. The state has indicated that they have a capacity and a willingness to reserve land for areas that may need future development. That is no secret. And the last thing is that a ring road is not something that this council would reserve land for. That would be in the remit of the state government. Thank you. Does anybody else like to speak? In that case, I'll revert to the move of the motion. Councillor Borden to close.
Thank you. It was great to hear everyone's views, and I can understand where you're coming from. I guess my motivation for putting up this motion was seeing that traffic modelling last year. To me, it warranted something being done fairly soon. I thought that the level of congestion across the network that was modelled, including things that weren't that far away, and the fact that people are experiencing a lot of congestion now, warranted taking some action. My inner ring road concept was using existing road network and doing some enhancement to Hyson Boulevard, which I don't think would be hugely expensive. I've got a map here. It was looking at key sections of Hyson Boulevard and upgrading them to making them able to take more traffic and deal with breakdowns. I will continue to stand my ground on saying that in the event of a bushfire, and the whole concept was around trying to improve people's ability to navigate how they can move around efficiently and not get stuck in traffic jams or in emergency situations. So I think that warrants investigation, and I'll stand my ground on that one. So thank you for the opportunity to bring it to council, and I guess we'll be continuing to have Facebook posts about potential routes and things like that, and I'm hopeful that these things are investigated sooner rather than later before further development occurs and we've got less options of what we can do. The other thing is about the this idea that a ring road will create future growth. My PhD supervisor sent me an article about growth in South Australia, and certainly growth tends to happen where there is road infrastructure. We've got a great thing called the freeway, and I think that can also attract growth. And I think we do need to consider a regional network and consider how we get around Mount Barker and do that efficiently, including truck movements. And I think that's important and shouldn't be confused with this idea that any decent road network is going to lead to, assume that it's going to lead to growth. Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favour? All those against? The motion is lost. Item 8.2, Institute Renewal Project. Councillor Vogt, would you like to move the motion?
Yes, I would.
Stand, please.
Apologies. Yes, I would.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Fordham. Sorry, my lapse. Councillor Vogt, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. I doubt I'll need all that. There is background to this. It's quite extensive, and prior to that, in the previous meeting, there was a report on the Institute of Macclesfield, which was the major crux for this development. Granted, with involvement from others, it has gone in a vastly different direction, with intents to find its way back home. Thank you for allowing me to put it out there. I'm pleased to see that my reading is that the staff comment seems to be aligned with the intent of this motion. In many respects, this motion really is just to reinforce that rationale, and that is what is outlined in the motion background. The purpose of this is not to create new work streams or any additional sort of workload here, but it is to provide clarity around timing, engagement and reporting so that council has information required to make informed budget decisions going forwards. While the officer comments indicate that condition audits and stakeholder engagement have been identified as future actions, council has not yet established timeframes, reporting requirements, or formal expectation around when this work will occur. The officer comments also refer to work occurring beyond 26-27, although this is not indicated whether the audits are currently funded, scheduled, or programmed. So this motion is seeking to provide clarity and certainty around those points. Without this work, the motion may remain, without this motion, the work may remain identified as a future action. With this motion, we can importantly give it funding and support the future asset planning and the budget prioritisation. Importantly for many here, and in fact all the people here, this motion does not commit council to any immediate capital expenditure. It simply ensures council has a comprehensive and equitable understanding of the conditions, function and future needs of community halls across the district before any further investment decisions are made. And in closing, and I probably am preaching to the converted here, but community halls really do provide they are the epicenter and the beating heart of particularly small townships. This is where all of the fabulous events that bring these communities together, larger communities like Mount Barker, but I feel it probably more acutely in the smaller townships where these buildings play an instrumental role and the people that bring them to life play an instrumental role. And in a sense, this is where this motion was born from. The MCA, Macclesfield Community Association, has done the council an absolute solid in sorting out some issues and direction there. We will be the benefactors of that work. And in so doing, I think it would be sensible for us to return to the table with not just the Institute in Macclesfield, but all of the halls across the district, with a firm commitment to be working with the stakeholders and the users of these buildings and doing our part to ensure that that these facilities are maintained for use currently and into the future. I admit there is a lot behind the scenes of this motion. There will be a lot of overlap with future budgets, future asset management plans and all of that. And I know the asset management team has a big portfolio and a lot on their plate right now. That being said, it is undeniable halls in the communities are near front of mind. There are a lot of things front of mind, it seems, but for a very sweet, genuine portion of the community, these are the beating heart of that township. And as a caretaker of these buildings, it's upon us to ensure that we're there to provide them in the way that people would appreciate. So that is what is before you, councillors, to consider. Thank you.
Councillor Fordham.
Thank you, Mayor. The council-owned community halls are an important asset for the community, providing important social infrastructure and being built on community effort and commitment. The council is also currently engaging on a broader licensing and leasing policy on halls, which requires negotiation and identifying responsibilities and is predicated on halls being in good sufficient condition to enable them to foster the required public use. I acknowledge Ryan for being proactive in this issue and being able to extend his practical experience of the Macclesfield situation to a broader positioning on halls. It also appears that staff are working hard on these issues and attempting to find suitable compliance and renewal of facilities. In my mind, such an audit, if it's done in a cost-effective manner, would help support the negotiation and renewal of the licensing agreements, as it would help to clearly identify what investments are needed, responsibilities, costs and timeframes. From meeting and discussing such issues with all committees, there are significant concerns about asset condition, required responsibilities and ways forward. That being said, committees have proactively sought grants to upgrade facilities, and any such audit should include reporting that effort and the resourcing. Another advantage in my mind of the district-wide audit is it may reveal commonalities and allow efficiency of scale and supplying upgrades and maintenance if facilities are facing similar challenges. Given the recent distress we have with the netball courts due to an asset degrading to a point where they affected performance, from a risk management perspective, I believe that a district-wide audit that can build on existing knowledge, information, and help facilitate engagement is useful. I'm confident staff can also integrate it within their current plans and risk frameworks and ensure it underpins the establishment of the licensing and leasing arrangements and the ongoing safe use of these facilities. Thank you.
Any other councillor? Councillor Grosso.
Yeah, look, it seems to me that this work's happening in any case or just by my knowledge of what's getting done in the district and by the officer comment. If it's carried, it serves to focus attention on these buildings. And yeah, no doubt that they are important to community building. And that's focusing of attention is arguably a plus or a loss because it must divert staff resources from other areas. So I'd be interested to know how resource intensive it is if it does get prioritised in the shorter term. Yeah, I have a problem supporting it. But I'm not sure what it changes from the longer term, but thank you, man.
Thank you. Any other member? Councillor Seago.
I'm a little confused about this motion. My understanding, and I'm therefore asking a question of staff, is are we currently in the process of conducting an audit or planning to conduct an audit in relation to the condition of community-owned halls? That is my understanding, and the office comments seem to suggest that is happening for 27, 28. That will also be associated with the enactment of the licensing and leasing policy, which comes into effect this financial year with an end date of the 30th of June, I think, is the transition period ending. I'd like to know whether we actually already effectively have committed to undertake these actions, and therefore certainly part 2 and part 3 of the motion therefore are effectively redundant, and the only thing is part 1 simply brings it forward a year, which would impact on our current budget. And I'm not sure what the advantage is, given that the halls in question will be undertaking a lot of this work this year anyway. Sorry, that's a very complex question, isn't it?
That question was front of my mind, Councillor Seago. So while you're remaining standing, I will defer to the CEO.
And I think that Mr. Burton is preparing to get up.
Thank you, Mr. Burton.
Thanks for you, Mayor. So just to answer perhaps the first part of that question in regards to the asset condition order, yes, it was intended to undertake detailed condition audits of our community buildings in 2026-27 financial year, and that has been included in the draft budget we were considering tonight. And that is particularly useful information across all of our community buildings to prepare our buildings asset management plan for the future. So that's a much needed activity, and we do building condition audits roughly every 4 to 5 years. So that was already part of our program. And I might, I think incidentally, I'm sure we'd like to talk to the second one.
Grateful for the contribution of.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Probably the bit, Councillor Seago, you've talked about we're doing all of this anyway. I guess what the motion in front of you does is brings 2 bits together. So the asset management condition audit that Mr. Burton spoke to, undertaken looking at the asset renewal, like current condition and asset renewal program. The other part is the engagement with the hall or institute committees to understand where is there a gap between service level standards and the condition of the building, and bringing those 2 together. So that discussion would have happened anyway as part of the discussions with the committees, with the leasing and licensing policy. And so that is that transition over the next 12 months, and we would be engaging anyway. What this does is bring those 2 bits together so we have a holistic view.
Thank you.
Any other member wish to speak to this motion? And I'll let the council vote to close.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, certainly can appreciate the comments here, and I foresaw them. And you know what, I didn't think it was necessarily an issue because this is about probably capturing the experience that occurred in the Institute of Macclesfield and ensuring that from the council side, our systems are prepared to fall in line with the expectation of the community, and this will certainly cement that. Granted, this is the last term of the council. I don't know what happens in the coming years, and this is a way for us here to really install this as the method forwards, that we can have confidence that the users and the communities of these halls will be particularly fond of and be prepared to sort of work with. Yeah, really. So it's just about a formalising of a lot of the already ongoing things. Yeah, so it's not doing a great deal. Like I said, it really doesn't have any immediate capital concerns for us. It does flag though that going forwards, we're going to need to consider these things. They're going to need to be considered in this sort of way and in these sorts of timeframes and with these sorts of priorities. So it is a preparation for what is going to be probably an ongoing project for this council in restoring and bringing our assets up to standard. I'm sure we'll be doing this for years and years and years. This is a way to demonstrate to the community that we're not going to be doing it without bringing them along and without ensuring that what their interest for their buildings are is our interest, and essentially bring them together. Thank you.
All those in favour? All those against? The motion is carried. Just a very short matter of housekeeping. I'm not going to labour the point. When you address me, my title is either Mayor, Mayor David, or Your Worship. And I distinctly don't really like the last one, but it's up to you which one of those three you choose. I'm not the chair. 8.3, Child and Youth Action Plan. Councillor Vogt, would you like to move this recommendation?
Yes, I would, Mayor.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Selassie. Councillor Vogt, you have the floor.
Thank you. Yeah, look, I anticipate that, unlike the previous motion, this one will not come without a budget consideration, and is probably perhaps far more contentious for some people. I feel like far more immediately impactful. In a sense, that's why it's here. Like I just said, this is going to be one of the last decision-making forums that I'm in, and we have spoken at length in this council about the appreciation and the advancement of our youth services, and I'm looking to shore up the legacy, given that we may not be here. I want to have confidence, at least providing the opportunity to this council to put some meat on the bones. I think our youth action plan has a lot of good substance to it. This is about providing some real some real resources and some real direction for it to sort of get off the ground and develop a good framework. Yeah, I appreciate that with the comments, and there's a significant amount of work already being undertaken in the youth and child and youth action plan. The community development office that we've got, the child and youth position, the youth spaces work, and many of the other partnerships that we've established across the district. This council really has made meaningful progress in this space, and we should all really be immensely proud of it. Over the recent years, the council has invested significantly in planning, engagement, partnership, and strategy development relating to children and young people. Those foundations are important and have created opportunities for future action. The officer comments clearly demonstrate that there is no shortage of understanding these opportunities and the initiatives and the identified actions that could benefit young people across the district. Importantly, the additional funding that I'm proposing through this motion is not intended to replace any existing initiatives. Rather, it is there to expand and accelerate the delivery of actions already identified through the Child and Youth Action Plan and the emerging outcomes from the Youth Spaces consultation process. Comments also note that children and young people comprise approximately 1/3 of our population, and identifying opportunities for additional investment in that cohort through participation, activated projects, partnerships, and a youth voice mechanism. Now, I won't labour the point, but 50,000, as we've seen in the questions on notice for the youth action plan, for the entire youth budget, for 1/3 of the cohort of the population in the district. In my own mind, I don't see those lining up fairly well. Many of the larger infrastructure outcomes in this space as well, and that we're considering at the moment, skate parks and youth centres, they are lack of a better word, they're a long way away. They will take a long time to plan, design and deliver. In the meantime, there remains an opportunity to invest in programs, partnerships and activities that can directly benefit young people today and importantly, maintain momentum in this space because, like I said, going forwards, if we're not here, we have spoken at large about our desire to have the council perform in this space and this is, I think, how we can demonstrate it. Like I said, this is one of the final budget decisions of this council term. Many members of the chamber have consistently spoken about strengthening council support for children and young people, and I really sincerely acknowledge that and appreciate it. So the question before us is not whether youth investment is important. We've offered the comments and we've all clearly stated and acknowledged that it is. The question is whether council wishes to modestly, to a modest amount, increase the investment in this area and to translate those aspirations into some practical action. For me, this motion reflects a view that there is value in moving from planning alone to implementation alongside planning. It is an opportunity to build upon the foundations that have already been established and make a modest but meaningful investment in the well-being, participation and resilience of the young people in our growing community. Thank you.
Councillor Selassie.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to support this motion and increase the funding for the Child and Youth Action Plan to support more equitable and timely implementation. We've just heard that over a third of our population within the child and youth age bracket, and I actually have a feeling that we have one of the higher youth cohorts than most other local government areas of the state. As I highlighted in my earlier question in the agenda, we effectively welcome the equivalent of a new classroom of school-aged children every 2 months to our district, and that's incredible. Now, I actually submitted a budget proposal for this upcoming draft budget to increase the child and youth allocation, clearly stating in my submission that I was mindful that the current $50,000 allocation is not sufficient to support the growing needs of young people or to deliver early benefits from Council's recent strategic work. Council's invested time and funding into both the Child and Youth Action Plan and the Youth Spaces Feasibility Study, both designed to improve outcomes for children and young people across the district. However, there is broader concern that actions and recommendations from these initiatives will take time to implement and realise their full impact. I propose that an increased operational budget for this year presented an opportunity to make an immediate and meaningful difference. I believe that additional funds would enable Council to cast a wider net across the district, strengthen existing programs, support emerging initiatives and maintain momentum for the youth cohort. All this while larger strategic projects continue through their planning and implementation phases. By boosting the budget now, by what really is quite a small amount, it could ensure that young people begin to experience tangible benefits now. A real concern that I keep hearing is that our young people will essentially age out of eligibility before any real benefits and results are felt in our district. So strengthening the budget for 26-27 cements Council's commitment to deliver real, timely outcomes for today's youth. I don't want kids to miss out. If we have the opportunity to increase the budget allocation to align with Action 5.2 of our Child and Youth Action Plan, we take a district-wide approach to provide improved equity across the townships to ensure that children and young people can access programs and activities, then I think we should take that opportunity. The arts budget has very deservingly been increased as a new program, and I think the new child and youth program deserves equal consideration. These are programs that our community has been crying out for many years, and we're really playing catch up. Adequate funding is essential, and I'm firmly in favour of allocating an additional amount tonight. Thank you.
Any other member? Councillor Fordham.
Thank you, Mayor David. Sounds nice, doesn't it? I also support the motion. I think we've gone to the effort to employ a youth officer and spend resources on developing a plan, which we could consider to be like seed funding. And so we need to make sure we resource delivering the plan and catering to all areas in the district, including the broader Mount Barker area. If I had a timer, I think the word youth is mentioned a lot in the chamber, and we have committed to a strategy, but we need to make sure that we can effectively outreach to communities. In terms of youth disadvantage, I think we have a critical window to engage youth constructively and input at that critical stage, which can have lifelong consequences. Investing in youth may prevent later costs to society such as vandalism, unemployment, crime, antisocial behaviour, homelessness, The council is not solely responsible. The state government also has a responsibility in the youth area, but we have developed some momentum in this council, and I think the social return on investment is high. There also appears to be a lot of potential for leveraging, buying from contribution from broader community groups, particularly in the youth space area. We've had some really nice emails come in about supporting the youth work. And I see that leverage particularly in the areas outside Mount Barker. It would also be good to be able to map any resource actions to key elements of the plan so that we can understand to the extent to which we're delivering on the plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other member? Councillor Grosser.
Yeah, I support this motion. It's an area that I've consistently advocated for and others over the 15, 16 years I've been on council. So I'm pleased to see progress in this current term with the appointment of a youth development officer, the development of the youth plan, the election plan, an extra $35,000 in the forthcoming annual business plan can only help to resource it and enable greater program delivery. So, yeah, all good. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other member? Then I'll revert back to council. Vote closed.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, as many comments just pointed out, you know, that it does speak the motion about Action 5.2, servicing youth projects and programming outside of Mount Barker. The reason I specifically focus on this, one, you know, I live out there, but two, it is a matter of equity. Mount Barker is the hub of this district, and I think everyone appreciates and understands that. But for young people and for old people as well, but in this context, young people don't have the access that people in Mount Barker have to fill that void and provide equity. In this case, we are required to have a focus and have a lens that allows us to observe the township outside of Mount Barker and try to address some of the needs out there too. And so that is sort of the intent. However, I'm fully confident in the staff understanding and utilising this additional resourcing if that's what the council wish to do. I've got full confidence they'll know what to do. It'll be very well spent and well received from the community, no doubt. Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favour? All those against? It's carried. 8.4, local biodiversity offset scheme. Councillor Rosser, you wish to move that one? Do I have a seconder? Councillor Fordham, Councillor Rosser, you have the floor.
Yeah, as the staff report sets out quite strongly, this is certainly a reasonably difficult, complex area, bureaucratic area to get involved in. Some of the needs are to have the land available for any offset program that's envisaged. It is discretionary for developers whether they want to get involved or take the easy path of just paying a native vegetation council fund. But hopefully there's enough developers out there who want to protect the local reputation and enhance the green credentials that some may be interested in partnering in a local biodiversity offset program. We're certainly losing a lot of vegetation, and that's why this is important. And I think worth consideration in exploration. We've only had 1/3 of the growth area rezoned in Mount Barker actually developed at this stage, and we've lost and are still losing a lot of vegetation, and that's going to be ongoing despite the best efforts of staff to retain as many trees as they can in development subdivisions. There's also no doubt that overall you can't replace remnant vegetation with revegetation, at least in the medium term. You know, looking at very long term, hundreds of years to get the large mature trees back that we're losing. But it can restore some balance in the local area if we get revegetation programs, management programs enacted here, And I think we owe it to our community who are distressed over the loss of vegetation in the area. It's a major issue for a lot of people. A lot of people come here for the environment. And there are paths forward. It is quite possible for council to request a specific offset project in its area, in our district, related to a specific development application with developer approval agreement. It would be council resource intensive if council run the program themselves, but that's only one possible path. The other is to use the third party provider, groups like Second Nature Conservancy, which council partnered with consistently as a high quality provider of natural restoration systems in the district. They are an accredited third party provider that council could engage to run such a program. However, they don't have the land for a large offset currently, and also questionable whether they've got the capacity. It's a very demanding process to get such a scheme up. Certainly, I'll acknowledge that. The motion or the background reference of possibly of philanthropy. There are people out there who want to see leave something behind for posterity to the natural world. It's theoretical, but it's possible somebody will have a farm that they don't want to sell a whole lot of the commercial gain, but would donate part of it for the biodiversity enhancement program. And council already have the policy in an action plan on climate change that raises the possibility of land purchase for priority corridors and ecological links. So we've raised that possibility in the planning. We just don't have enough policy on getting involved in a local offset program. The motion is not meant to be prescriptive. All I want to do is explore opportunities and constraints. We could engage with the Native Vegetation Council to see what's likely to apply with them. And if it's all too difficult under existing legislation, and I accept that it is difficult currently, then that could be something that's worth considering in our environmental advocacy plan, because we have decided to include environment in our advocacy. So it's something that we could put and try to get changed to make it a little bit more user-friendly, to get less restrictive and bureaucratic, to have local offset schemes related to local development applications that result in clearing. So interested in what others have to say. Thank you, Meg.
Would anybody else like to speak to this motion?
It's the second again.
Yes, I remain for the second of the game.
Thank you. Yeah, David.
Welcome.
I support this motion, as there are hopefully opportunities to increase the level of biodiversity offsets in line with community concern about the loss of biodiversity, particularly in the development footprint of Mount Barker. We can't actually replace the trees and vegetation, but we can potentially take a positive step towards looking at what options we actually have. I reflected an experience in 2023 when I was involved with the Strathavon Road Big Flat White Gum Tree, which was the best specimen in the district, which was cut down to widen the road. We fought hard on the issue. We engaged an arborist, we engaged the media, we engaged a design engineer to try and move the road. Unfortunately, all our efforts failed, but through negotiation with DIT, we were able to collect seed from the tree, which resulted in 100 seedlings being grown, and we planted those on private and public land quite recently, which was an informal type of biodiversity offset, including Janet, who actually dug the holes to plant the trees. The impending biodiversity loss at Cedars Wood, to me, is made all the more distressing, not having that ability to do a local offset. Particularly hit me when I visited the site with somebody local and we saw the trees with their survey pegs in them, somehow commodifying these casuarinas, which evolved in the Australian continent for 50 million years and are the food of the black glossy. So I brought in some seeds. I think the lack of capacity to undertake biodiversity offsets at Bald Hills Interchange is also a concern, given that DIT seems to be quite willing to participate in local offsets when it's practical. I also can give some really good examples of Drover's Rest, which is a great partnership arrangement that council's undertaken of restoring integrated paddock that have packers in it. That sets the tone of what potentially can be achieved. And I acknowledge that Ian asked some good questions and we got some good responses about some of the issues with offsets at the moment. I wasn't thinking that this motion was about creating a separate offset scheme to double up and create administration difficulties, rather look at barriers, issues and methods to how to overcome things and try and work and see whether there's other models that we could learn from. In discussing these issues with the general public, district community groups, a developer and land manager, there were very encouraging sentiments and all offered to contribute something to the table. This, I believe, would make the task easier and lessen the burden on staff. And as Ian's mentioned, I think it does align well to the Nature and Wildlife Action Plan action about prioritising and mapping strategic land for conservation, habitat connection and possible purchase. So I do not see it as particularly contrary to our strategic direction. And personally, I do like the idea of harnessing benevolent contribution towards land purchase and offsets, which may be a trust. I would be personally prepared to donate or contribute if I got to experience and enjoy the heritage. And my understanding is that there are some people out there that don't necessarily want to hand all their land over to developers and might be interested in looking at other options. Thank you.
Any other member wish to speak? Councillor Seager.
Thank you, Your Worship. Apologies for the use of the term. After 12 years, I think it's too late.
But it's too late to change it, Councillor Seager.
I'm not opposed to offset schemes, but I'm very much aware there are currently already 2 layers of offset schemes that developers face. There's Commonwealth MBDC requirements, and then there's the requirement under state government legislation. They involve a considerable amount of work on behalf of developers, and council on top of that has a minor scheme of a 6-for-1 replacement for a tree that is removed. Adding another layer of offset at council level adds another layer of complexity for developers, and was very popular to berate developers. They are providing houses our community lives in. Many of the people who moved into this community living in houses provided by developers, and so maybe they need to think about that and when they wish to deny that right to other people. I don't think it's fair to go from a particular Cedar Woods and make the particular case of Cedar Woods to a general case of the desire for offsets. The question comes down to what is the mechanism for council to insist on any offset scheme, even if it has the agreement of developers. Is there a mechanism under the PDI Act? And to the best of my knowledge, there isn't any such mechanism. And the existing Native Vegetation Act clearly defines the requirements for offsets. The use of where offsets, or the location of where offsets might take place, is very strongly presented under the Native Vegetation Act and presents a fairly high standard, so that the desire for an offset in a location adjacent or nearby to the area that was cleared may not be able to be achieved under the Native Vegetation Act. Comment was made in relation to the Bald Hills interchange offsets. I know that Second Nature Conservancy was engaged with council to try and achieve the revegetation associated as offsets from that, the clearances associated with the interchange, and were unable to meet the standard imposed by Native Vegetation Council. And so those offsets did not take place in a local context. They did take place, and they were, and I don't know all the details, but they were at Ashbourne and other places, and I believe some of them were further to the north. Not necessarily local, but achieving the same vegetation association, i.e. red gum woodlands. So this motion seeks to engage with other schemes in other jurisdictions. And I'm not sure that that is necessarily a useful thing, because the legislation and regulations that exist in New South Wales, Victoria, Queensland, or some other jurisdiction may be completely different from here and not transferable. I think it's unreasonable to ask staff to spend a lot of time undertaking that activity. Staff have made it reasonably clear that that this request they find less than satisfactory. I think, and I have argued for offsets, that council undertake and continue to undertake offsets, but I don't see that this going down the path of making decisions about the nature of any offsets should not take place, in my opinion, until such time as had the report that has been offered by council over and above the information in relation to this motion. And so until such time as had a report in relation to offsets, I can see no point in making decisions about how those offsets might take place and what the mechanism might be. So I can't support this motion, even though clearly I have a concern for the loss of native vegetation, and I have concern that the offsets, from my perspective, should be placed as closely as possible to the areas where the clearance has taken place. And by way of that, I'm going to just state that I've been on the K4C, the Cunningham Community Consultative Committee, for over 20 years and argued extremely strongly in relation to that forum that the clearances associated with the opening of the Kanmantoo mine should take place in local areas, and achieve that eventually after nearly 20 years. Thank you. I'll leave it.
Any other member wish to speak? Councillor Selassie.
Thank you, Mayor. I am concerned regarding the governance, the overlying regulations, and the practicality of a local biodiversity offset scheme. Council staff has today advised that a workshop will be delivered irrespective of the decision tonight regarding this motion. And additionally, that there is a lot of information relating to this, with it difficult to detail all opportunities and challenges within a few pages of an agenda. I know that personally I submitted a submission recently for a development, and I know there's a significant amount of interest in the chamber. So my preference would be to await the workshop that's been offered in the first instance, rather than supporting this motion tonight. Thank you.
Any other member? Who's going to close this? Councillor Grosser?
No.
Sorry, I didn't see your hand.
Yeah.
All right, we'll start again. Any other member besides, but after councillor vote? Nobody? Then councillor vote, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you. Look, I won't say long that this is a bit conflicting. I find myself in agreement with the councillors who have just spoken. Despite all the words and probably the sincere heartfelt advocacy for environmentalism that I know went into this motion, I do see some reasons for both sides, but I am going to err on this side of pragmatism in this. I would just say, maybe we've been talking a lot about offsets. I'm not, and maybe these reports could convince me, or another report, but I'm not convinced that a local offset is the ideal, even necessarily. Maybe I'm being a bit utilitarian here, but essentially, if there is a statewide body that can orchestrate offset strategies by focusing on particular areas where we can maximise benefit with that offset resources that developers are paying, and I hope, I wish that they would pay and restore some of the damage that they're involved in, not paying that forward, that people who live in those homes, and that is an important consideration too. But the idea of a local offset, I mean, I know we've got some sweet spots here for biodiversity, but I'm also aware that you can go to the border with New South Wales and you will find some of the most rich, dense vegetation with as high biodiversity value as anywhere. And just because it's not in our district, I really don't see that as a landing factor for me. I think the money needs to go where it's best spent, and it would not surprise me if that offset strategy is better orchestrated from a body outside of the council's remit, and with a particular focus and scientific expertise about how to deliver that. I feel like we've got some systems in place we would be starting, we would be starting a new venture, and perhaps I think that would take far too long before we got any trees in the ground, basically.
Any other member? No, I believe it's councillor Gross at the close.
Just to respond to a few of the things said, I can't see, this motion in no way denies people the right to housing. It's accepting that clearance is occurring and what can we rescue from, that situation. Councillor Boots' comment is a valid argument, that the money should get spent wherever, bureaucrat working at a state level determines it's best spent, but that's also then accepting biodiversity decline beyond what is necessary in this district because we're losing remnant vegetation. If we're not replacing it, we've got to accept that we're losing it, and don't forget that the hills are one of Australia's biodiversity hotspots, and that woodland bird species, several of them are endangered, or if not extinction, very vulnerable. So we've got endangered species in our area. We've already got, council already has the capacity to run to accept biodiversity offset credits. It's got the summit already established with that credential. So we could look at how we can make better use of that. Which I expect we probably will in this briefing that's forthcoming. I think the better prepared we are, the better, because if we own land or have good policy, good proposals, then we're more likely to be able to talk to developers and put something forward that they may find of interest. So I think it's an area worth working in. And in a way, well, I find it strange that councillors support having a briefing, but not this motion, because this is fairly open to just examining what can we do to, how can we consider, how can we explore using local clearance offsets locally, and that's surely what the briefing's going to be doing. So in effect, the motion's already been successful, because out of this motion that was put on notice a week ago, this afternoon had announced that there will be a briefing on it. So by my way of thinking, it's already achieved. So it's strange that people will work on the briefing and not not support the motion, but we'll see what happens. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. The final person who's spoken, Councillor Gordon.
Yeah, David, I'm not able to ask a question, or is it too late?
No.
Thanks.
All those in favour? All those against? The motion is lost.
Division, please.
As we've had a request for a division, the decision that has just been made by council is set aside. For all those people who are voting in the affirmative, who are recasting the vote, please stand until your name has been called out by me and recorded. And those in the affirmative are Councillor Grosser, Councillor Fordham, and Councillor Size. You can take your seats. Those in the negative to this motion, please stand. And I'll name them: Councillor Selassie, Councillor Kelly, Councillor Seeger, Councillor Vogt, Councillor Bradwell, apologies, and Councillor Jones. You can take your seats. The motion is lost. Move to the next item, Cam M2 Callington Trail. Councillor Seeger.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Do you wish to move it?
I wish to move, I do.
Good. Is there a seconder? Councillor Hall. Councillor Seeger, you have the floor.
Thank you. I'll assume that my fellow members have read the background information you've provided. Yes, in the council officer's report, it refers to reprioritising this project. That is precisely what I wish to do. I raised this project proposal with a member of staff in July 2024, and it has gone through a number of amendments and has been simplified from involving possibly 5 landowners to involving 2. The potential to have to deal with the Adelaide Rail Track Corporation has been entirely eliminated by a rerouting path. I have confirmed that both landowners are in agreement in principle, subject to the provision of reliability protection for a path across their land. They do not seek compensation. And in fact, Hillgrove, the conversations with the relevant person in Hillgrove Resources says that their engagement with this project must be through the Camden Community Consultative Committee, which is their community engagement arm, if you like, and that this project should, by way of an analogy, should be the house upon which the furniture of a future cultural trail project should be installed. This is a project that arose independent. These 2 projects arose independently. Mine arose out of the desire for people to be able to get from Camden to Kanmantoo without being killed on the Princes Highway, which has is a B double route and has no verges worth speaking of. And so I have progressed from that basis, and in parallel, a similar project which has arisen out of the desire of the Kanmantoo Cullington community to develop their communities together, since they share their heritage. The cultural trial they are speaking about would be able to utilise some of the routes of the proposed trail and would be a basis where other spur lines may leave off it. Many of the things in the officer's report I consider to not be spurious, because I'm not wishing to be cruel to our staff, but I think they're resolved already in a sense that there's general agreement where the route is. There's general agreement. The 2 parties, there are only 2 parties other than council and landowner, for the short passages of public road that we require at either end. So I believe this is a relatively simple, straightforward project. I know that that is an optimistic view of council processes in the due process must take place. But I think by reprioritising this project, it can be achieved relatively cheaply and relatively quickly and provide the benefit that the community is seeking and allow a future project that the community will generally fund through other means to proceed built on the basis of this project. I commend it to my fellow members and seek your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Seconder, please.
Thank you, Mayor. We'd just like to agree with many of Councillor Seeger's comments and thank him for his extensive background and the staff's comment also, which is very thorough and detailed. I think this is a no-brainer and a great solution for that part of the world, and fully support it as well.
Any other councillor? Councillor Selassie.
Thank you, Mayor. We have communities in Kanmantoo and Callington who've been asking for this throughout the years, and I think it's well past time that we take action and properly invest in the opportunity before us. We have 2 willing landowners, and this opportunity might actually not last forever, so I think it's worth investigating now. I believe there's merit in exploring ways to provide a safer connection between the 2 townships. The desire for this trail link has been consistently raised by residents, and there are obvious benefits for walkers, cyclists, families and young people seeking to access services, facilities and activities between both communities without relying on the 100 km per hour Princes Highway route. I only recently sat down to have a chat with Kanmantoo and Callington residents who spoke about some of the challenges facing local young people and the need for more opportunities to connect, participate and be active, and even to reach the recreation grounds safely. While youth initiatives in these townships is a broader conversation, I do think improved connectivity between the 2 townships could form a small part of the solution, enabling young people to more safely access sporting facilities, community activities and social opportunities in the neighbouring townships. Importantly, this motion is not asking council to commit to constructing a trail, it's simply asking us to investigate whether there is a more achievable option than the one currently identified in our plans. What has particularly caught my attention is that the existing concept is estimated at around $9.5 million and has therefore been assigned a low priority. However, the community, through K4C, and discussions with landowners has identified a potential alternative route that is shorter, safer and more affordable. For me, this is about undertaking due diligence required to determine whether a viable project exists with regard to questions around land access arrangements, liability and licensing, to my mind. Given the long-standing community support and potential benefits involved, I think it's a reasonable direction for council to take, and I'm happy to support the motion tonight. Thank you.
Any other member wish to speak? Deputy Councillor Grosso, you're first.
Well, I understand it's a current good opportunity with the offer of the landholders. Yeah, that's one reason perhaps to do it. But I also, reading this up, it's much less I would have expected with the amount of use it's likely to get. It's a low priority, even if we can greatly save on that very high budget that Councillor Stacey just mentioned. It's likely going to cost millions. And when you look at other priorities like the missing link at Nembo Park that's been declaring that inadequacy for years, we can't get grant funding for that, and we've chosen not to fund it ourselves. Or the crossing at Fibre Lane, which was a heavily used, a very important link in the sort of shared trail network around Mount Parker, and there's no substitute for that. No other way to get to the playground, sports field, etc. without that crossing there. I see them as high priorities. So, yeah, I've got mixed feelings on this. Thank you, Mayor. I do generally always support the investigation of improving pedestrian and cycling trails. It just seems a bit of a long shot in this. So you can put around there on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other member? Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to thank Councillor Seeger for putting his problem-solving hat on and thinking outside the box, and bringing the necessary parties together to present what would seem to be a practical solution. I'd like to see more of it in council. Thank you.
Any other member? Councillor Seeger, be close.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I just won't repeat myself, but I will go to the question of costs. The issue of low priority, of course, is the very thing I'm trying to change by changing the priority. The council also made the comment that it would cost millions. No, that's the council proposition. The proposition I'm talking will not cost millions. I cannot say what the price will be, but millions would be unbelievable. By way of context, Hillgrove Resources has already spent $25,000 on the development of this project and have a budget of around the same amount further for initial development towards this. So they are committed and have put their money on the table and spent it already in relation to this project, the overall project, the two stages, this stage and the second one, which they see as one built upon the other. And I think it behoves council to take advantage of that opportunity and not let it slip through their fingers and be gone, because in time it will disappear. It's already been 2 years since it was proposed, and I have been disappointed at the response from council staff, and I'm disappointed for it to have been prioritised in such a low manner. And I was astounded at the $9.5 million price tag that was touted earlier, simply because that proposal did not utilise any of the land of the landowners we're talking about. In fact, followed council land the whole way and achieved part of the standard that would be beyond my understanding. We're not talking about a highway. We're talking about a marked trail that is relatively simple, made safe so that a sensible person will not injure themselves, in the same way as all the other trails through the hill, the Hyson Trail, etc., Lavender Trail, all of these things pass through private land. The sky has not fallen. So I believe we should act rather than kick the can down the road. Thank you.
All those in favour? All those against? Motion's carried. Number 9, motions without notice. Members, are there any motions without notice? Item 10, there are no petitions received. Item 11, recommendations from committees. And we have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 2. And here, then we'll deal with them separately. 11.1.1, can I have somebody move to the minutes of the section 41 Audit and Risk Committee? Thank you, Councillor Slasey, seconded Councillor Seeger. Councillor Slasey, Councillor Seeger, any member? Councillor Slasey, all those in favour? Carried. 11.1.2, Audit and Risk Committee Chairperson report of meeting. Does somebody like to move that report? Councillor Slasey, Councillor Size, Councillor Slasey, Councillor Size, any member? Councillor Slasey, all those in favour? Carried. 11.1, we jump to 5, there's no 3 and 4, is there? I can't see 3 and 4. Sorry. So we go straight to 5. 11.1.5, asset management plan updates. Do I have somebody move that way? Councillor Vogt, seconded by Councillor Slasey. Councillor Vogt. Councillor Slasey. Any member? Councillor Vogt. All those in favour? Carried. Then the second part of that, the council adopt and review already done that. Excellent. 11.1.6, Audit and Risk Committee work plan and meeting schedule. And if we'd like to move that, Councillor Seeger, seconded by Councillor Size. Councillor Seeger.
Thank you.
Councillor Size. Any member? Councillor Seeger.
Nothing.
All those in favour? Carried. We go to item 12, item 12.1, draft council long-term financial plan. Do I have somebody move that report? 12.1, draft council long-term financial plan. Anybody like to move that way? Councillor Vogt. Seconded by Councillor Slasey. Councillor Vogt.
Nothing to add there.
Councillor Slasey. Any member? Councillor Vogt.
Nothing to add.
All those in favour? Carried. 12.2, draft annual business plan, budget and rating policy. Do I have somebody move that way? Councillor Slasey, seconded by Councillor Size. Councillor Slasey.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is to send it out to consultation. I have asked for clarification on a number of items of this annual business plan, and I'm comfortable to send it out. I will highlight that despite staff and elected member advocacy, including from myself, the new infrastructure grants program has remained at $100,000, even though it's oversubscribed by $300,000 for its inaugural run last year. So I'm very interested in feedback on this program from the community. I also note that the draft budget allocates significant funding to essential road infrastructure, but comparatively little to open space. This does reflect the results of a community scorecard survey where roads and infrastructure consistently attract the most feedback. So we're certainly listening in that regard. However, I also see open space as an important priority. I understand the proposed $100,000 in the draft budget is intended to deliver year one actions from the draft open space action plans, including master planning. And I hope this will lead to open space receiving greater focus in future budgets. I look forward to any feedback that our community may have, and I encourage residents to have a thorough look and let us know what they think. Thank you.
Councillor Size.
No, thank you, Mayor.
Any member? Councillor Vogt.
Yeah, thank you, man. Look, I'm gonna put something out there. I mean, I'm gonna support this, because it's a serious document, but I just want to flag something. So in the background of page 76, point 3, public notice for the Christmas on Wednesday, 27th of May. You might notice that's been and gone, and I think we've got a workshop scheduled for the 15th of June. So I can see what the council's thinking in terms of getting that information out there, but I think my issue is, you're preempting the council's decision a little bit on this. I appreciate the timing about this is important, but I do believe it is in the community's interest that we have some involvement in this, and I would hate for them to have the idea that this was an assumption to be passed through at the meeting. I understand what it is and what it means to the council and all of us. I think the optics, though, are a little bit questionable, and certainly it has been called out to me that, you know, this by preempting these dates, you've established the idea that this will be approved. Like I said, I will support it, and I believe it will be put through. I would encourage staff to be a little bit careful with those things in the future, if you know what I mean. Thank you.
And before you resume your seat, as a point of clarification for me, you said page 76, is that of the
agenda? Yeah. Yeah.
And which line are you referring to, councillor?
So the background dates, at point 3, notifications of the engagement period will be made through public notice. Point B, public notice in the Courier newspaper on Wednesday, 27th of May, 2026. So I believe that was last week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm wondering how we are informing the community of public engagement when the item is on the council meeting tonight to be approved.
Well, I can answer that question if it is a question, councillor.
It's not really, but feel free to.
Well, it says the public notice is in the Courier of 27th of May, which was last week.
Yeah.
And when's the meeting?
Well, the meeting's tonight. So am I mistaken in thinking that the public notice that went to the Courier was relating to the consultation period, or was it relating to this item being on the agenda tonight?
I think the notice that appeared in the Courier, and I'm possibly going to be comforted by the words of the CEO or the General Manager Strategy or the Acting General Manager Corporate Finance, is that the public notice on the 27th of May 2026 was to advise of something different to what you might be talking to.
Yeah, possibly. Look, I'm not interested in interrogating this further. Yeah, to be honest. I suppose what raised this issue in my mind was the idea that, so we've got a workshop for the 15th on the budget. That's a public workshop, and really the timeframes around that for communities to organise, participate, and attend, to provide feedback, and all the rest. It's not a lot of time, but of course I feel like this is already, the time frame around this has already been sort of firmly established, and it was raised to me by sincerely interested and intelligent people that the optics of that to them would make us appear quite, this was an expectation to get through, and like I say, I'm going to support it, but it's just for the council to be aware of those things.
Mr. CEO, anything?
I think the council is keen for it not to be discussed. I'll be very brief. I mean, the staff plan, as they do with anything, they plan a sequence of events, and had the council not supported this evening, it wouldn't have been run in the Courier. That's, you know, a way of looking at it. And I think the ad was really the flag that's, should the council resolve this evening, then it wouldn't be run in the Courier, so it gave notice of it. So we'll kick it around in terms of our management team, because councillor vote has picked up a public perception matter, which we take seriously. It's good feedback. I don't have an instant answer of whether or not it would have been unavoidable because of the programming and scheduling of things, but we'll certainly take it on board in terms of feedback from the council vote. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. CEO. Anybody else wish to speak to this matter? Councillor Hall.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I'd like to thank the staff. I think they do a very, very good job in preparing this budget. There is a lot of good stuff. There are some comments on the grants. I concur with Councillor Slacy's comments about infrastructure funding. That was very oversubscribed, but I do appreciate that we are in quite a constrained environment at the moment, and the funds are quite tight, but I am interested to see how that plays out. Also noting the addition of the small business funding awards, which I think is a great addition to our grant programs. I'd also like to highlight as well that I do have some sympathy for the accounting staff. Fully supported the earlier motion tonight on the increase to the Child and Youth Action Plan and the funding there. But as a matter of logistics and how that plays out, we're going out with this draft annual business plan, but that doesn't include that. So how does that play out with our community consultation? Is there programs here that potentially will need to be removed, or will rates need to change? I'm just trying to work out the logistics of something we've done tonight impacting a draft annual business plan going out on the same night. Thank you.
Is that a question, Councillor?
It is.
Good. My understanding is that the draft annual business plan is going out for consultation, and the $35,000 that was moved earlier in the day won't affect the rating. It would be less than 0.1% of the council rates for the year, and that what is going out for consultation is a draft which will come back to this chamber to be voted on. And if I've made any error factor admission, Mr. CEO?
No, Mayor, if I could just add to it a little bit, that the council's resolved to include something in the budget, and that'll be accommodated within the draft budget and for consultation, and the council will get feedback from the community after the draft's been consulted on, and then make its deliberations. In terms of any concern about what the impact of that amount will be, I mean, it is a matter, I mean, there's several ways it can impact the budget, but the simplest, most obvious one is that any operating result is affected by that amount, and if there's a small surplus, will be just 35%, $35,000 less. That's one of the approaches. But the council's tonight determined that it's a priority, so they've included it, and it will go out for consultation along with everything else. So thank you. Thank you. Question.
Any other member? Then I return to Councillor Selassie to close. All those in favour? All those against? The motion is carried. 12.3, community engagement approach, draft council ADP. Anybody wish to move that way? Councillor Vogt, seconded by Councillor Selassie. Councillor Vogt.
Thank you, Mayor. Nothing to add.
Councillor Selassie. Any member? Councillor Vogt.
I don't know, Mayor.
All those in favour? Carried. 12.4, Southern Hills Local Government Association budget. Do I have a councillor that wish to move that way? Councillor Ford, seconded by Councillor Vogt. Councillor Ford.
Thank you.
Councillor Vogt.
No, you don't need that.
Any member? Councillor Ford. All those in favour? Carried. 12.5, adoption of 2026 fees and charges worksheet. Do I have a councillor move that way, please? Councillor Vogt, seconded by Councillor Grosser. Councillor Vogt.
Nothing to add there.
Councillor Grosser.
Only things that stood out to me, the hefty increase in the sewer infrastructure fee, which obviously reflects costs, and I think that's what I'm truly needed. And I always puzzled at why cat registration is so cheap compared to dogs, but it seems to be that's the way it is. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other member? Councillor Seeger.
I was surprised to see that we had introduced an additional fee for influenza vaccinations. I'm surprised. I was only understanding they were previously at no charge, and to me, it doesn't seem a very good policy to introduce a fee for something that was previously free. Vaccinations are extremely important in controlling influenza in the community, and I think the cost to council, I don't know the costs, but I can't see them being astronomical, and they serve a very, very good public good.
So I would like staff to make comment on that if I can, since we're here to pass that fee tonight. Thank you.
You may, and while I'm inviting staff to do so, my understanding is that the fee is in the general community, if you go to a pharmacist, is $20, and there are certainly groups of people, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people our age, councillor Seeger, who are entitled to free vaccinations. People also have comorbidities such as immunised complications with cancer and all those sort of things, and understanding that we're charges beforehand. But as you've requested, staff, Mr. CEO, would you like to exemplify on what I've said?
I need to refer that to Ms. Armstrong, thank you, Mayor.
Ms. Armstrong, will do so, Paul.
Thank you through you, Mayor. Thank you, councillor Seeger. I don't have an answer for you. I'm going to have to take that one on notice and come back to you. As the Mayor pointed out, there are some, state provisions about who does and doesn't receive free vaccinations. In terms of whether this is a new fee and why, I'll need to take that on notice and come back to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other member? Honourable councillor vote.
Nothing to add, Mayor.
All those in favour? Carried. 12.6 Environment and Sustainability Strategy Action Plans. Do I have a councillor move this way? Councillor Grosser, seconded by Councillor Slashy. Councillor Grosser.
Look, this is a lot of great content in this. Good work by staff. They've done a lot of hard work on this. The critical thing will be resourcing as usual. One thing to have a good policy, and on that note, I'm really pleased to see an additional $100,000 for environmental outcomes in the annual business plan. Also pleased to see that so many of the concerns of the community have been taken on board. A lot of good changes in response to community feedback. Not all. There's sort of ongoing discontent in some sectors. This is a perpetual one on whether to use more specifically native planting in our township planting. This envisages the township greening envisages a mixture, but I think slowly going more in that direction and trying to encourage biodiversity, which I welcome. On that note, just a question. I think we're going to come up with some township planting guidelines under G1 Township Greening Action Plan. Community members who've had this sort of thing run past us, we've had some input in briefings in the past. Just wondering whether the community will have any input into that when we develop the township planning guidelines. Don't know whether we've worked that one out yet, but just something to keep in mind. And that's just one thing that some community members are keen to have a say on if they get a chance. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Slaston.
I want to acknowledge that this would have to be one of the most extensively consulted strategies council have undertaken, to my knowledge. The level of community engagement, including the workshops held with community members, I think has clearly shaped the final document. As a result, I believe we now have 5 exceptional action plans that are practical, ambitious, and really importantly achievable. I read the consultation feedback and administration's responses with great interest. What stood out to me was the quality of the feedback received, hand in hand with the genuine consideration that was given to that feedback. Many of the community suggestions have not just been noted, but they've been incorporated into the final action plans. So I read them as a really collaborative set of documents, and that's great to see. There are a number of additions and refinements that I think deserve recognition. Within the Nature and Wildlife Action Plan, I particularly welcome the new Strategic Biodiversity Corridors Action, identifying and protecting key habitat connections. And I'm pleased to see this work identified as an immediate priority. Another addition I strongly support is the new action to integrate nature positive outcomes into council decision making, ensuring environmental considerations are built into decisions from the outset rather than considered as an afterthought. And the tree, hollow and fauna protection protocols action interests me. The protection of habitat and wildlife during council projects and development activities is an issue that matters deeply to so many in our community, and I know that Councillor Grosser has raised it a number of times also. And this action to partner with community organisations on site-specific fauna protection and rescues where risks to wildlife are identified demonstrates a practical commitment to better outcomes for native fauna. Finally, I was pleased to see the strong support from community organisations for Council's environmental advocacy role, strongly reflected in the action plan. The commitment to explicitly include climate resilience and environmental priorities within Council's master advocacy plan demonstrates that we recognise many environmental challenges require real action and support from higher levels of government as well. I'd like to thank the community members who contributed their time, knowledge and passion throughout this process. And I'd also like to acknowledge the staff involved in developing the strategy and action plans and responding so well to the feedback received. Thank you.
Any other member? Councillor Ford, I would invite you to discussion.
I've got to say that Jess captured it really, really well. I totally agree with everything she said. I think that it's really an action-oriented plan. It covers everything well, comprehensively, clearly determines the council role, and we would all like funding to be more. I agree with that in action, the new one about creating corridors and trying to improve the impact of development. I'm hoping that that could possibly also consider a bit of an offset angle as well, but I just would have to say that I was really pleased with this result and the ability to respond to very legitimate community concerns. And to me, it's quite an exciting plan. So thank you to all involved, and hopefully we can resource it.
Any other member? Then I'll return to Councillor Grosser to close.
Look, nothing to add other than already thank staff for a great document and for them collaborating so well with the community. But if I'm going to do that, I should also thank the community. Some members put a huge amount of time and put their hearts into responding to these community consultation on anything environmental and obviously very important to them, and they're willing to make the effort. So it's great that we have such passionate community that want to preserve their wonderful environment, and it's certainly a great collaboration. Thank you, Mayor.
All those in favour? All those against? The motion is carried. I now put to the chamber that after the first item, after 9 p.m, we adjourn for a 10-minute break to refill the water containers and come back in 10 minutes. Is there a seconder? Councillor. So I just got to explain. There's two parts of the brain when you're sitting at the front here. Well, I know exactly where everybody is, but your brain is so hard working on the left-hand side, but the right-hand side where you recognise faces and names in the one context. I'm not the only mayor in the universe who this happens to, so councillors, I know you do, but not everybody out there at the other end of the camera does, so I know you all are, and I'm very grateful for you all being here. We have seen that. Anybody wants to speak with that? Then all those in favour? Carried. Go to item 4.7. Draft engineering requirements. I'll just wait for a second for the minute secretary to catch up to me. I'll do item after 9 p.m. Thank you. 12.7, do I have somebody move that way? Councillor Seeger, seconded by Councillor Orr. Councillor Seeger.
Just to say that I've attempted to read these documents, and I'm not sure I'm any wiser at the end of it, but I have great confidence in our staff dealing with these matters in an intelligent way, and I would like to take the opportunity at this stage to give my thanks to the work of Andrew Houlihan, who has recently left our employee for employment in the government, along with his two predecessors. So I acknowledge his good work and the work in relation to this, which will hopefully make our planning staff life a little easier and a little more coherent. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Seconder.
Nothing further, Mayor. Thank you.
Any other member? Councillor Seeger.
Nothing more.
All those in favour? Carried. Item 4.8, proposed heritage agreements for key conservation reserves, community engagement results. I'd like to move that way, please. Councillor Grosser, seconded by Councillor Vogt. Councillor Grosser.
I'm really pleased with this. I think it's an outstanding initiative by staff. So congratulations to the staff to pick this up and run with it. It's a recognition of the importance of all of these sites to council and the community. There's a lot of upside, making available the possibility of grants up to $260,000 for the management and restoration of important remnant sites. And it certainly strengthens the protection of these areas that are very important to us. So I think it's fabulous. Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Vogt.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, just like the other comments of Councillor Grosser, and know that there is a number of these locations in Macclesfield. That is because we are blessed out there with an intense amount of open space, or as we call it in the council, there, these places they're talking about, the night paddock and day paddock in particular, this is the type of environment that you can walk into the middle of and you would have no idea where you are. You can genuinely get lost in there, and it is a very loved asset in town. There's a lot of competition around these things. Some people want walking trails for them, some people want them entirely left alone. I think the truth is somewhere in the middle, but having them elevated like this through the council, really commend the work and the progress for all of that in that direction. And good luck to them.
Thank you. Any other member? Councillor Grosser?
Nothing further to there.
All those in favour? Carried. 4.9, dissolution of strata corporation exclusion as community land. Will somebody move that way, please? Councillor Seeger, seconded by Councillor Size. Councillor Seeger.
I take this as being a sensible step to address the development of the city centre project, and where to that?
Thank you.
I think I will do it, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Size. Any other member? Councillor Seeger.
Thank you.
All those in favour? Carried. Ooh. 12.10, Essential Services Commission of South Australia Local Government Advice Scheme. Will somebody move that way, please? Councillor Fordham, seconded by Councillor Size. Councillor Fordham.
No, thank you.
Councillor Size.
Nothing there, thank you.
Any member? Councillor Fordham. All those in favour? It's carried. 11, Southern Hills Local Government Association application for exemption from audit committee requirement. Do we have somebody move that way, please? Councillor Seeger, seconded by Councillor Vogt. Councillor Seeger.
Can you say that your worship, this is an extension of existing condition? Thank you.
Councillor Vogt.
Nothing to add, man.
Any member? Councillor Grosser.
It just seems entirely sensible, practical in terms of the low turnover and the low risk factor.
Thank you. Any member else? And in that case, Councillor Seeger requires all those in favour. It's carried. 12, revised code of practice for meeting procedures. Do I have somebody move that way, please? And just before we get too far, there is a slight difference in the voting of this. We will require for at least 2/3 of the council members entitled to vote. Move this. Somebody like to move that way, please. Councillor Slasey, seconded by Councillor Vogt. Councillor Slasey.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. It's a minor revision. We underwent a huge revision last year and this I think is 2 or 3 weeks, so I'm comfortable with it. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Vogt.
Nothing to add to that, Mayor.
Any other councillor? Councillor Slessy?
No.
All those in favour? Carried. Back in 10 minutes. On 10 on the dot.
Don't need to actually anything on PC.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
Item 12.13, caretaker policy review and consideration of holding a public meeting of candidates in the general election. If somebody can make it. Councillor Selassie, thank you. And seconded by Councillor Fordham. And just to note, we're doing the first part first, dot points 1 and 2 on the agenda.
Sorry, if I
We're
may.
just dealing with 1 and 2 to
One
note
and two,
the
all right.
association and resolve the guidelines be included as an attachment to the council's adopted caretaking policy.
Thank you.
Just to be clear, Councillor Slash, you still wish to move that way?
Yes, happy, thank you.
And seconded by Councillor Gordon, wasn't it? Yep. Councillor Selassie.
No, thank you.
Councillor Fordham.
No, thank you.
Any member? Councillor Selassie.
Okay.
All those in favour? All those against? The motion is carried in that part. Then we go to the second part, which has two components to it. It is points 1, 2, 3, 4, as I'll call that A, for want of a better thing, or the council move B, which is 1, 2, and 3. Are people clear about what we're doing here? So I'll repeat it for the tape. We have got two ways of moving forward with this, as it is in the agenda now, that it's either A or B. And the A, that we have a public meeting, and B, we'll see that in the second part of 1, 2, 3 after the 1, 2, 3, 4. So I think somebody has moved one or the other. Councillor Selassie.
Thank you, ma'am. I wish to move B, please. Determines that a public meeting of candidates and members of the public will not be held in respect of general elections for the following 4 reasons as outlined in attachment 2. Would you like me to read them out?
I prefer you not. Do I have a seconder?
Can I have a point of clarity?
You can, sir.
Thank you. Whilst I appreciate that Councillor Selassie has said she's moving recommendation B, recommendation B is a holding of meeting candidates as a default position. I would have thought she's actually moving the section of the agenda after or.
Right.
Is this correct? Yes. Thank you. So it's not actually, it's, the labelling is weird, okay? Because, okay. Well, that's providing, we also know that we are not doing B1, we're doing the alternative B, which should be C.
Yep. They're on your page 1, 2, 3, and 4. Yep.
Thank you.
Or 1, 2, and 3. And Councillor Selassie has moved or 1, 2, and 3, and that determines that a public meeting of candidates and members of the public will not be held. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your question, Councillor Seeger. It's always good to have clarity. Do I have a seconder to what I'm determining as B that could be C?
I'm happy to second it.
You are. Thank you, Councillor Seeger. Councillor Selassie, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. My reasoning is pretty simple. After taking a look at a few other councils, and in addition to the reasoning provided, the 4 reasons within the agenda attachment, I agree with another council's direction that it is not considered appropriate for council staff to run an impartial event to allow candidates to present their views on the issues relevant to our community. I also know from personal experience that there is often much greater benefit in candidate forums or meetings being organised by our local community members. I've spoken to them and they actually enjoy it once I've spoken. The recent forums held across the district during the state election campaign showed just how well received these events can be when they are community-led. I recall that in 2022, as a new candidate, there was at least 1 Meet the Candidates forum in South Ward, 1 in Central Ward, and 2 in North Ward. To my knowledge, they were all exceptionally well run. Community members had the opportunity to submit questions in advance and also ask candidates questions directly on the night. While a council-run public meeting could risk feeling somewhat formal or clinical, we have very capable community groups that are well placed to hold these forums in a professional, welcoming and accessible way. In my view, that actually makes them more inviting and often more effective. For those reasons, I'm confident that our community will continue to have appropriate opportunities to hear from and engage with candidates ahead of the 2026 election without that responsibility and cost falling to council. Thank you.
Councillor Seeger,
Nothing.
any member? Councillor Grosser.
I quite like the idea of council doing as a, just as once, as a one-stop. I think there's no doubt that there were a lot of events that happened, and they have been well organised in the past, but I don't think it's universal that these groups particularly want to do them. I think they feel that it's a community service, that it needs to happen, that members of the public need the opportunity to meet the potential, the candidates, to help so they can make an informed vote. And it's a lot of work. And I think from my conversations that some would be quite happy for council to take this responsibility on this one time and see how it goes. And if it's not very successful, or as Councillor Selassie thinks maybe less successful, it may be the case, then we could make it one stop only. But interesting experiment. I think council could conduct it in a very fair and impartial way, and put on a good event. Use the council certainly as the experiences and resources in organising good public forums. I'd be interested to see council run a good city. But I also don't mind the way it's been done in the past. I'm not too disappointed to be sick to that. Thank you, Mayor.
Any other member? Councillor Fordham. Councillor Fordham.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, David. I tend to agree with Ian. I think there would be some benefits of having a council-run event. Particularly, I would be interested in terms of the mayor and getting that broader understanding of the district and understanding people's issues as a collective. I think it would be a useful exercise. There could be a large number of candidates, so I'm not quite sure how we would manage that across the wards if we got reasonable, quite good uptake. But I think it would be useful to have that collective understanding and give everyone an opportunity to have that experience of engaging with the public in a transparent way. And I think particularly in terms of the mayor race, it would also be useful for people to hear and meet and see them respond.
Any other council wish to speak to this? Councillor Grosser, it would be a question, please.
Yeah, just like staff's opinion, given that staff, our council have far greater resources and reach with social media and mail outs, etc., to publicise an event, do staff think that it would be a better attended event than one organised by a small community group with less resources?
I'm not sure that the staff's opinion in this particular matter is germane. Councillor Grosser, this is a matter for this chamber, and while staff may have an opinion, I'm sure they'd be quite happy to pass it on to you. But staff generally act on the direction of council. But if you're insistent, I will invite the CEO to answer your question.
Really no need. It's also just a way of raising the difference in ability to publicise. Thank you.
Any other person wish to speak? Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mayor. I tend to agree with Councillor Selassie, and in the 2 local government elections I've been involved in, the public meeting hasn't been run by council, and there's plenty of opportunities by various community groups to allow candidates to speak and to get their message out there. I don't think it should be a role for the council staff. I think we already have a significant expense as far as it comes to local government elections, as well as having to coordinate this and add to the resources. And as you know, a former candidate twice, Plenty of opportunity to get your message out there, whether it be social media, speaking to groups, asking, go stand out front of Mount Barker Central, shout, do whatever you want. I don't think it's a responsibility of us, and I think our staffing resources will be strong enough as it is without adding this onto them as well. Thank you.
Any other member wish to? Councillor Butt.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I'm a bit indifferent to this, I suppose. I'm, of the opinion that's just been stated. I think there's good reasons to forego it, and I know the community do put on a pretty good show for it, and I'm sure some of them appreciate that opportunity. I wouldn't put it, I guess I wouldn't call these things unbiased, but I think that's a reality out there. I think everyone's going to bring that bias, and maybe council staff would be better positioned to not bring a bias. So I guess there is part of me that'd be curious to see how this would go. I'm certainly would be curious, but yeah, I'm a bit indifferent, and it's going to be a tough decision based on that indifference. Thank you.
Councillor Hall.
Thank you, Mayor. As somebody that's attended and participated in several of these run by the community, I've always found them to be very impartial, have no bias whatsoever, and to give each and every candidate the ability to address the people that are interested. And on the topic of people being interested, I think that's what we need most out of local government elections. We need people to buy in and get involved and get engaged. And that's something that our community groups do incredibly well. And I think that, as my personal opinion to Councillor Gross's earlier question, I think there would be a greater attendance if it's run by the community, promoted by the community, and we boost that voter engagement and that community engagement by the community instead of the local government running that forum. So I'm fully supportive of council not managing a forum and having the community do that if the community wants to have that engagement with their candidates.
Any other member? Then I'll revert to Councillor Selassie to close.
Thank you, Mayor, and I really do appreciate listening to all the feedback. Thank you. Just a couple of further points. I did note in these new guidelines coming down from the state that there is actually the option, if council ran it, for candidates to not turn up and to actually do it online, which I even thought added to the clinical sense of this, because in a community forum, you turn up, you don't have that option to zoom in online. So that was actually something that sort of turned me off a little bit from this new policy that has been suggested by the state. I'll also add that knowing a by-election costs around $60,000 to $70,000. I cannot remember off the top of my head how much one of these elections costs, but it was an exorbitant amount last I heard. So I'm not going to add to that if we do have some other really, really valid, fantastic options out there. Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favour? All those against? The motion is carried. 12.14, administrative update of council delegations. Do I have somebody move that way, please? Councillor Seeger, seconded by Councillor Vogt. Councillor Seeger, you have the floor.
These are periodic updates generally that originate in state government and relatively minor in nature in most cases. I have tried to read my way through them. My head hurts more than normal, and I'm happy to support them. Thank you.
Councillor Vogt.
Another go then.
Any member? Councillor Seeger.
Nothing further.
All those in favour? All those against? Carried. Well, 15, ward donations. I'm just going to wait a moment for people to have their bids put up on the screen by the minute secretary, and while we're doing that, are there any other late additions? Nobody else wish to add any? Okay, thank you, Minute Secretary. Do I have a mover? Councillor Size, seconded by Councillor Fordham. Councillor Size.
Nothing further.
Councillor Fordham, any member? Councillor Size. All those in favour? It's carried. 13, information reports, and my recommendation is that we take them on block 13.1, 13.2, 13.3 and 13.4. Would anybody like to move that way? Councillor Selassie, seconded by Councillor Vogt. Councillor Selassie.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to speak to item 13.2, mains water supply to Callington and then please. I read this response as essentially saying that we acknowledge your concerns, but we do not accept that there is currently a problem requiring investment and we have no upgrades planned. I agree with the agenda comments that state that SA Water largely dismisses any need for infrastructure upgrades or changes based on their investigations and knowledge. I didn't see any commitment to timing, funding or delivery of future water infrastructure upgrades for Callington and Nairn, which is really disappointing. But according to SA Water, we don't need them. The letter acknowledges that given the topography of Nairn, there are some properties where water pressure cannot be guaranteed to receive the minimum standard level of water pressure. It also addresses concerns regarding water quality, stating that ongoing monitoring and testing confirms water quality compliance. So we do actually have answers. They're not as helpful as I had hoped, and certainly disappointing for both Callington and Nairn residents, but they are answers nonetheless. And I thank staff for their efforts and advocacy in pursuing this matter with SA Water, particularly given this is not fundamentally a council responsibility. What this letter highlighted to me most is that SA Water's position throughout is essentially we meet our service standards, which is very different from them saying the system is fit for future growth, because I didn't see that. I don't see any assurance here that the existing system has sufficient capacity to accommodate forecast growth. I also didn't see a commitment to infrastructure upgrades that many residents have long expected. I acknowledge and do appreciate SA Water's very fulsome response. However, compliance with today's minimum service standards isn't the same thing as demonstrating that infrastructure is ready for the predicted growth, particularly in Nairn. Our community has raised concerns not merely about water quality, but about future capacity, resilience and reliability, and I'm not sure that that was answered fully. Thank you.
Councillor Vogt.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I wholeheartedly share Councillor Slassie's concerns, and I know others here do as well. And I will just add to that with in regard to 13.1, the advocacy update. Very much appreciated. Love the document. Thank you.
Any other member? Councillor Seeger.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm less than happy about this response. It seems an extraordinary thing that SA Water would have flagged great fanfare the partial increase in the mains to Callington 15 or more years ago, and the intent within the next few years to increase it to make the water supply more adequate for the township. And now, say 15 years later, when the town has probably almost doubled in size and the number of people in it, that they have no need to increase their infrastructure for reasons that are entirely unclear to me, given that significant numbers of the town rely on water piggybacked off other residences' connections, since there are no main passing their property, and they share meters and are subject to all the horrors that involve those residents in, where they have to try and juggle who uses how much water and when, and who pays for the leaks and all those things that go with an inadequate water supply. So I am disappointed, I have to say. I don't know what we can do further, but I am quite disappointed, and I know the community will be as well.
Any other member? Councillor Selassie.
Nothing to add, thank you, Mayor.
All those in favour? Carried. 14.1, that the following reports be noted on block 14.1 and 14.2. Do I have somebody move that way, please? Councillor Vogt, seconded by Councillor Selassie. Councillor Vogt.
Nothing to add, Mayor.
Councillor Selassie. Any member? Councillor Vogt. All those in favour? Carried. The mayor's report, and I hope somebody move that the mayor's report be noted. Councillor Size, Councillor Vogt, Councillor Size, Councillor Vogt. Any other member? Councillor Size.
Think better, thank you, Mayor.
All those in favour? It's carried. Members' reports, we have a members' report 16.1 from Councillor Selassie. There was somebody move that that report be noted. Councillor Size, Councillor Fordham, Councillor Size, Councillor Fordham, any member, Councillor Size, all those in favour? Carried. All those against? Seventeen, questions arising from council meeting. Is there any member of the gallery who would wish to ask a question of council before we move into the confidential section of the council meeting where you will not be present? Either of you two have a question? Then I bid you both on the due. You can ask what we're about. Good night. Questions? Did you have a question, Mr. Bailey? You don't have a question for the chamber? No. No? Okay, good. I now seek for the council to decide whether we're going to move into confidence. Do I have somebody move that way, please? Councillor Vogt, Councillor Selassie, and Councillor Vogt?
Nothing to that.
Councillor Selassie. Any member? Councillor Vogt?
No,
All those in favour? Carried. Good night, Mr. Bailey. Yeah, all those carried.